All right, it's been a little while since we last gave you a podcast, but Bry, back from Summer League, back from Vegas, and we'll talk Summer League. We'll talk Warriors Summer League. We'll also talk about who Brian thought were three standouts in Summer League. And overall, I guess my first question is, will you do Summer League again? Like, did you like that experience?
I would do it every year, twice a year, 3 times a year if it wasn't anywhere else but Vegas. Like it just wasn't my scene. I think after just doing the U of A like hard party culture for 4 years straight, and then now that I'm doing like the opposite of that in San Francisco, I kind of prefer the opposite. Who knows? Maybe I'll start liking Vegas at some point. But it was too hot. Again, went to Arizona in college, so super hot. Now I'm in SF, super cold. I enjoy, and I probably prefer the SF weather. But no, I
And you
love
grew up in Gilroy, and summers are like 105 in Gilroy.
Yeah. And so I think, I loved the experience of just watching basketball for 8 hours. We did that at the California Classic. We haven't done a podcast about that, so maybe we'll just loop that in here. But we did that, and I think we did like a 3/4 version of Summer League. It was like 3 games opposed to like Summer League. I think has like 4 to 5 set up per day, per court. So yeah, I think ours, like I had so much fun at the California Classic. So I just knew I was gonna love Summer League, and yeah, I just love watching basketball for 8 hours. I loved being in that scene, seeing just players and seeing the journalists who I read, seeing the TV people who I watch, just all in one little area. And I just get to walk around and be an observer. It was a lot of fun. I'll probably go again, even if it's in Vegas, but I would go like 5 times a year if it was in anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think our goal is to do the California Classic as much as we can.
Because it's convenient. Exactly. Yeah, I'll do the California Classic every single year. I'll put that in paper with my signature with pen.
Well, we'll see, because I think...
Oh, unless it's in LA.
Well, yeah, if it's in LA, then that's different. Though
yeah,
the last 2 years were Bay Area and Sacramento. And I think the year before, the Bay Area one, wasn't in Sacramento before that?
Oh, man, I did see the flyer for it, but I can't remember where it was.
So maybe they'll just keep it in Northern California, and we can just keep going. Yeah, but that was fun. We went to, and the Sacramento, the Golden one, is such fantastic.
So cool.
It's a great building. And what do you remember what that area was called that we were just hanging out?
I don't.
I forgot what it was called. But
yummy food.
Yeah, they have shops there, and it's way different from when I went the first time, which I think I went with your brother, like the first season that the arena was open. So, but yeah, that fit, and I'm sure Thrive City. I'm sure they're going to be building out more things in Thrive City to try and make it a little bit more like that. Because I think if they do, then Thrive City all of a sudden just becomes a really, really fun place to not only just go watch basketball or concerts or whatever, but just to hang out. Like that's what I got from that place was in Sacramento. It's just fun to hang out and see the different places and the different restaurants and everything. So when we obviously Wembanyama was the big ticket as far as why there was so much hype for this summer league. He played in 2 games. The first game was the highly touted the ESPN game, and he didn't play terribly well. He shot actually pretty poorly. But then in the second game, he actually played very well. Were you only at the first game, or were you also at the second game?
I went to both, but I only caught like half of the second game. I forgot where I was, but I totally went and like did something else, because after the first Wemby game, I think I stayed for about 3/4 of the first Wemby game, and then the Ringer was doing their little like setup thing during the fourth quarter. So Ben texted me, and I went over and hung out over there. Missed the rest of the game because I was like, this is boring. And then for the next Wemby game, I think I was just like so in the. Okay, quick little summer league tidbit here. There's 2 courts. There's the main court at the Thomas and Mack Center, and then connected to it is almost like the UNLV's practice gym. It's called the Cox Pavilion, I think.
Yeah.
And so you get to like freely move between gyms. And for the Wemby game, people were camping up, like camping in front of the arena. Like we had a guy who we knew went there at like 7 a.m.
Wow.
And I know. And so there were people like my buddy Brandon and my buddy Adrian were telling me about their summer league experiences, because they've gone for like the past 5 years, and they were just basically saying how cool it was to just always kind of be moving between courts. But for the Wemby day, you couldn't do that in fear of losing a good seat to see Wemby. People were ready to go at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. when the first game tipped and didn't move out of that seat because they wanted a good seat for when Wemby came. And so that was kind of like a downside of like, you know, the plus side of going to Summer League is to freely move between courts, go watch different teams, go see different people. But for the Wemby day, like you had to sit at one seat. So what we did, we had 5 or 6 of us and we just like saved seats.
Yeah.
So people at a time, at a pair, can go to the other gym. So I took advantage of that. But that was a little. I'm hoping that's only a Wemby thing, because just looking at next year's class, all the big name is only Bronny James, and he is like the 20th best player in the class.
I wonder if it was like that for Zion.
I think I heard from my friends that Zion was the biggest one they've been to, and then it was this one, or I don't know. Those were the top 2 though. These 2 in terms of being packed. But yeah, we don't have a Zion like prospect or a Wemby like prospect until like 2026, so we're fine.
So you got to see him. I mean, was it cool watching him play? I mean,
yeah, it was awesome. It just felt like it was like a different aura. Like it was like he peeked his head out of the tunnel and people went crazy. Like I videoed it and put it on my Twitter. I wanted to be the first one to upload the Wemby clip of him being in an arena. Like it was just anything he would do would everyone was watching. All eyes were on him. So, but watching him, like, I don't take too much at a Summer League. I feel like everyone says it, but you really can't take, you can't use stats to back. I don't think you could use stats to back anything good or bad for Summer League. I think it's just a completely different, you just can't do it. But with Wemby, like you just see it. Even with the first bad game, I watched the first bad game and I was just like, I don't care. Like he's going to be awesome. All that matters for him is if he just develops like efficient shot creation, and he's like one of the best players in the past like 2 decades, or maybe of all time at some point, maybe top 10 of all time, if he's able to just kind of develop shot creation. Because Draymond said it on the PG pod, I think, is just at the very least he's going to be an awesome rim protector. But the what makes him so impressive is the way he moves at his height. He moves like a wing. And he's able to dribble like a wing, and he's just able to do all these things that people a foot shorter than him can do. And you know, first game was disappointing. I think people were a little over it. I was definitely over it. I was just like, I felt free by the third or fourth quarter. I was like, okay, we don't have to care about this anymore. I could leave my seat and I don't care that it's going to get taken. But no, it was pretty cool to watch him. And the second game was where you started to see like, okay, people were ridiculously overreacting for the first game. I went and hung out at the Ringer station, and there was the NBA people that were walking around and filming Spurs fans on like, what'd you think of the first Wemby game? And I tapped the guy on the back. I was like, hey, if you need a good interview, like I'll be a good interview if you need one. And he was like, okay, here we go. You have to pretend to be a Spurs fan. And so he asked me a question. He was like, what'd you think about Wembanyama? I gave him like 3 minutes of just like me just talking about like watching him and how he's been, and you know, don't overreact, and he's going to be playing basketball all summer, because at the time I think he was supposed to play FIBA, and now he's maybe not playing FIBA. And the guy at the end was like, dude, like this was supposed to be like me asking you questions and you were going to give me answers, but you just did it all, so I didn't even need to do that. And he said it would be on the NBA app at some point. I've been periodically checking like once every like week or so just to see.
Did you use your name?
I don't know if I said my name's Brian, or if I know I didn't say anything about the BAM pod. I didn't do any free promo. I wanted it to get used. I'll like quote tweet it or something and say like, hey, that's me if it gets uploaded. But no, it was just like 3 minutes of straight just like Wembanyama talk from me. So we'll see.
When I was watching that game, the only thing that I kept cringing on was anything out on the perimeter, because I was just like, okay, this guy steps on somebody's foot, if this guy gets kicked, because you know there was a lot of that we saw in some of the games, and you know I was catching some of the Warriors Summer League stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in the corner because there's not a whole lot of room, so there's a lot of like kicking legs in the corner and stepping on ankles, and whether or not that was a flagrant foul and this and that. And I'm just worried about him because his legs are so dang skinny and so dang long that you kind of worry about if he's going to be out on the perimeter. You know, guards have to worry about stepping on ankles and tripping over feet and getting kicked and stuff. And you don't really have to worry about centers in that aspect, but he will if he's going to be this multifaceted player. That is an injury concern. And I know that they've been talking about his training and stuff and how he's building his lower body to be able to withstand a lot of that stuff. But still, that was like in the back of my mind. I was like, oh no, don't jump out on that three, you know, because he could be a target in that instance. Is one way to take him away and take him out of the paint, you just play, the same lineup that the OKC was playing last year, and you kind of force him out on the perimeter, and you probably take him away from what he does best. So that'll be interesting how teams attack him, because if they just attack him and they just try to dunk on him,
you're gonna be in for some trouble.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be bad times.
I think because that you literally just described the formula that the Los Angeles Clippers used to beat the Utah Jazz in 2021 when Rudy Gobert was on the court. They just did 5 out and they put Terrence Mann on the left corner. That's who Rudy was guarding. So he'd have to come in every time that they got by the point of attack defender. Rudy would come in, sink in to help and defend the rim. They kick it to Terrence Mann, who just had an out of body experience in like game whatever it was. He had like 30 something or 40 something. But yeah, no, that I feel like. Yeah, no, that's really how you do it. So we'll see.
I mean, and I use Oklahoma City, but the Warriors could do the same thing, right? You just have Draymond play center and you do. But Draymond is not actually the best shooter, so maybe
it wouldn't be the Warriors wouldn't be playing like your typical 5 out. It would be like the highest pick and roll with Draymond, and then everyone else is 5 out.
Totally. All right, so we're gonna go through. Before we go through your faves here, I wanted to ask you about this guy, because we got to see him in Sacramento, Brandon Podziemski, and you could tell he was a little nervous. Of course, he was nervous, his first time on the court, and you could tell that he had some real nice basketball savviness to his game. Really good passer, really good at sort of feeling offensively where things were, and he's got an eye for the basketball. But there were some things, and we sat. I think we're in the second row, so we're like right there. We're as close to the court as I think I've ever been watching a pro game before. He's not fast. You could definitely see a lack of athleticism with him, and not to say that that Steph is this like fantastic athlete, but I clearly remember in summer league with Steph, they were kind of doing the same thing with him, is that they were kind of exposing his lack of athleticism. And I think Steph is, rookie Steph is more athletic than rookie Podziemski. So I think that's a concern. And my other concern with him is shot creation, because he's just so small compared to some of the defenders out there. And so there are some nice things. Like, I think he'll be able to hit some open jumpers. He'll be able to play some point guard in lineups that are fast and that could kind of, maybe account for his lack of athletic ability, and maybe he gets some nice assists and nice pass. But the funny thing that I've seen, and I think it was my friend Sheed from Warriors World. What did he call him? Did he call him brown hair Nico Mannion or something like that?
I called him evil Nico Mannion. And I might have gotten that from Sheed. I don't remember.
And look, Nico Mannion was a top player coming out of high school too, right? Like, he's a fantastic high school player.
Yeah, but
more highly touted out of high school than Podziemski was. But
yeah,
very clearly, even in the U of A days, you could sort of see what he lacked. Yeah. And Podziemski makes up for it because he's just plays so damn hard, and he crashes the boards, and he's, nose to the grindstone kind of player. But yeah, I don't know. What were your first thoughts on watching Podziemski play?
When I say, like, don't use summer league stats as like a reason to like judge a player, be in on a player, or be out on a player. And I think I learned that just from watching the California Classic and the Summer League this year. Like, I've always been told that, but now I kind of understand it. And in Summer League, you need a point guard who's going to set up your guys. And if you don't have one, then your team looks like the Charlotte Hornets. Just, you have Nick Smith Jr. and you have, who's the other guy? James Bouknight, who are your 1 and 2 guard, who are just out there to create shots from themselves. And when you do that, then you can't get like the prospects who you want to watch. You can't really get them involved, and it's just messy basketball. And, although Podziemski had a pretty rough statistical output in both the Cali Classic and the Summer League, I feel like watching him take that role of being like, okay, there's no point guard. I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. Taking that responsibility. I was mildly impressed by that. I was pretty impressed by that. I didn't think he can be the point guard. I didn't think he could be the distributor that I definitely was able to see in those couple games. So, I know a lot of people are probably low on him from the stats that he put out, but Marcus Thompson said this on Plus Minus too, that he was even more, he didn't like the pick to begin with, but after seeing him play, he was intrigued. It's because this guy just looks like I think what we saw from Podziemski is that he's going to fit into the Warriors system with his passing ability and his shooting ability. I just thought, and what we got to see, which is so cool about being courtside, is that you get to hear the player conversations or you get to hear the players talk. And he was so vocal on defense, especially to end that game. Very shy in the beginning, but to end that game, it was a close game and they were pressing and he was telling people where to be defensively. And I was just very I was like, okay, he's like the most vocal on the court. This is his first NBA game. You got Guy Santos over there and you got Lester over there, and Lester's just beating him. Like Lester's just getting in his own head sometimes. He's just getting angry.
It's getting mad.
He's just getting mad. And Guy Santos is still only has half of the English language down. And so I thought Podziemski, being his first game I was very impressed. Just by literally everything but the stats. And I know that's just kind of okay, you're just cherry picking the good things and not saying anything bad about him. I agree. Speed, athleticism, that's going to be a question mark. But I think I've said this a couple times, but the Warriors weren't going to draft another teenager. They weren't going to take a chance on another, Cam Whitmore was available. That's who a lot of people are pointing at this moment of the Warriors should have taken him. And I keep pushing back, and I understood why they skipped on him the first time, is that he was falling. All these teams were passing on him medicals, and his college coach didn't have anything good to say about him. So he was falling. And for the Warriors, were you going to take another Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman, just a super athlete who might need a lot of time to develop? They couldn't just risk that again. So I think Podziemski was the pick. He was kind of the middle pick, like Jaime Jaquez Jr., who we got to watch, who we were really impressed by.
Yeah,
he's you draft the old guy and he's going to be good from the go, but he doesn't have that high of a ceiling. That's the Jaime Jaquez pick. That's the Jordan Walsh pick for Boston. The opposite is when the Warriors went Kuminga and Wiseman. They let Lacob influence their decisions and went super athletic, super raw. That's the Cam Whitmore pick. I feel like the middle of both of those picks, ironically, is the Brandon Podziemski pick. He has a little bit of a higher ceiling and he's a little raw, but he can provide stuff right now. And I think we'll see if he doesn't get into the Warriors rotation. I think that's an L. I think that's a bad pick then.
I think they're going to give him a chance. Kerr loves guys like him. Kerr's that was me in 1992. And but he also knows what he did, who Kerr wasn't. And I just want can you keep him on the court if he can't stay in front of guys? I think that's going to be the key, and we'll see how much patience Kerr has. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk more Warriors stuff after, but I wanted to go over some of your faves that you got to see in Summer League. So this guy only played one game.
He only played one half.
One half. Were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay.
I was there. I couldn't miss it. I think with
Scoot Henderson, by the way.
Scoot Henderson. I'm only making my picks based on the games I was there for. So I know Cam Whitmore was the Summer League MVP, but I only watched 2 games of his and they weren't anything too crazy. But Scoot Henderson, man, this is why I said you couldn't pass on him and draft Brandon Miller. We knew Brandon Miller was going to be good.
We got to see a full game of Brandon Miller.
Even though he had a tough Summer League outing with in the California Classic, you thought he was good, right? I thought he was great. I thought he could be really good.
His body is, and the way he moves is a basketball player through and through. There's some stuff that I don't know his story that well, except for the negative things that we heard. But there was a little bit of he had an opportunity because his team was terrible. But he had a couple of vets, Book Night and stuff who've been there before, and this is their second year, so he probably felt
third or fourth year.
Yeah, he probably felt like he couldn't override them in the same way that Podziemski was trying to. So he was very, very unsure and passive and not taking certain shots when I thought that he could have just tried to dominate the other guys because he's so much of a better athlete.
And
but yeah,
that's
that
why
stuff was a little shaky.
And that's why that was my reasoning for taking Scoot, is that I thought Scoot was the better talent, but Brandon Miller like was surely going to be like this all-star caliber player. Like you still can't convince me that he's not going to be like an all-star or damn near an all-star. With Scoot, I was like, this guy has all NBA potential. There's like this factor that, I feel like not many draft analysts or maybe they are, but just the general public isn't really like accounting for it because it's not like a statistical number that you could see. It's that dog, man. It's Brandon Miller who played passive. He didn't want to step on the toes of Kai Jones and Book Knight and Nick Smith, who's his year. Scoot said, give me the damn ball and get out of the way. I don't know if you got to see some of the clips, but
no, I didn't see anything.
So he gets the ball. I have a clip actually that I put on that video that I sent you, but it doesn't have the entirety of the clip. But Amen Thompson is the 4th pick in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Amen Thompson is projected to be, he's like the best athlete going into the NBA. Like right now, he's like the best athlete. Maybe like him and Shaedon Sharp are like the best athletes in terms of percentile. So Amen's projected to be a pretty solid defender, a pretty good point of attack defender. Scoot said, give me the ball, get out of the damn way. I'm going at this guy every single time. And he went at him and he did that little step back move that I have in the video, shoots over him. And what I think is underlooked about that play that I don't have in the video that you haven't actually seen the full clip, right after he makes it, he goes and runs up to Amen and just starts defending him full court. And I was just like, this guy has something to prove. I think it's a good thing for the Portland Trailblazers that not only that he went to the Trailblazers, but that he fell below Miller, because that's just going to be like
he's going to want to kill Miller every time. He's going to want to kill Miller every time.
He's going to want to kill everyone every single time because you passed on me, even though it was just one pick. Like Whitmore has like a whole list of names, but Wemby, I feel like Scoot,
we saw him go at Wemby last year,
and that's my point. Like Wemby's supposed to be the number 1 pick. How will you respond? How will you go at this guy? And he's for sure going to get pick number 1. There's nothing you could do about it. But how are you going to play against this guy? And he said, I'm going at him every single time. And I was just, there's just that dog in Scoot Henderson that I feel like he's just gonna, I feel like he's gonna hit his ceiling. And I mean, I know you can't take anything out of Summer League, and I didn't even tell you the stats exactly. Want to know what he did in 21 minutes of play? 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal. What was the shooting? 5 of 13. So really, actually not that efficient, but. Again, I'm trying not to use statistics to prove my Summer League points. I'm literally just like, this guy was a dog. This guy had it in him. This guy is going to be someone who's first in the gym, last out.
What was his injury?
Thompson every single time. Shoulder, I believe.
Ooh, that's a weird one.
Yeah. Amen Thompson was going to be in my honorable mentions for this because he was a little shaky to start out. I think he was a little like, whoa, this guy's going at me every single time and needed a little bit to adjust. But once he adjusted, he was awesome. And he went down with an injury that game too. This game, Houston versus Portland, if there's one game that I would say to watch for the entire Summer League, it was this one. It was the most exciting one. It ended with a buzzer beater from Jabari Smith Jr. A lot of high picks. Ryan Rupert, Chris Murray, and Scoot all on Portland. And then they had Shaedon Sharp second year. And then on Houston, they had second year Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., high-touted prospects in the year before. And then they had Thompson and Whitmore. So both teams were super excited to watch. And your favorite player in Summer League was on Houston.
Which one?
Your favorite player, man.
Your
favorite Summer League player.
I changed my player.
Oh, who was it?
Who'd
you change it to?
You think it's you're saying Jay Huff?
Jay Huff, yeah.
No, I changed it to Dom Barlow.
Oh yeah. Okay. So your former favorite Summer League player is also on one of these teams. Yeah. If you have one game to watch, if you're like, I want to watch one game from Summer League, I haven't seen anything, watch that game.
All right, speaking of Jabari Smith Jr., he led all of Summer League in scoring with like 35 points a game. He's like the Kobe of Summer League.
I don't know how many games he played, though. I forget if he played 2 games. I know for sure he played 1 game. So let me go.
Maybe it was just that one that you...
So he had 33 in his first game. How many points did you say he averaged?
2 games, 35 and a half.
Wow. So he must have averaged, he probably got 37 the next game. At the half, my friends were asking me, like, we were watching this game. They were like, who do you think the best one is? And who do you think the best player right now is on the court? And I was like, it's got to be Jabari Smith Jr. Like, there's no way it isn't. And after the first half, they were looking back at me. Well, he had 4 points on like 3 of 13 shooting. And I was like, wow, I'm going to really look bad here. The second half, he went off. Like I don't know how many points it was total in the second half, but like I hate to use the comp, but it was very KD-esque in the way he was getting his buckets. It was essentially like, you are smaller than me, and I'm going to jump up as high as I can. And once I do that, I do not see you, even though you're contesting me, and I'm just going to get wide open jumpers. Like, it was just easy movements. It wasn't even anything crazy. He didn't have to break his defender down with a dribble. It was just one dribble pull up, back you down, quick fade away, just catch and shoot. Like, that's how he's going to be in his game. He's not. And now I don't want to put a ceiling on him because, you know, I compared him to Mikal Bridges when he was entering the draft, and Mikal Bridges was not what he is now, which is a guy who's able to get his own bucket. But I was like, at the very least, he's going to be able to play defense. He's going to be able to shoot a three. Like, he's like the big version of Mikal Bridges, because Mikal can guard like 1 through 3 really nicely. Jabari's like probably a 3 through 5 guarding wise. And Mikal is obviously taking a leap, and he looks like he could be like this all-star caliber player. I don't want to put that ceiling on Jabari because it feels like he might be able to do the same damn thing. What I watched in that summer league, like, all he needs to do is, you know, develop some more shot creation, or really just say, like, I'm taller than everyone. I'm going to shoot wide open right over you every single time, and I'm going to average 25 to 27 a game. I at the very least, like, though, I think he's going to be like a really great 3-and-D player. But no, he went off, and he was super exciting to watch. And I expect a big year 2 from him, because he didn't really have playmakers last year to set him up. And now he's going to have, even though Van Vliet's not this like crazy playmaker, but they also have Amen Thompson. So they actually have like some guards to get him the ball. And Şengün's an awesome playmaker too. So I expect a pretty solid year 2 from Jabari, because I feel like he had a pretty underwhelming year 1 up until the very end. But no, if this guy's going to score the basket, not even score, but just get the looks he got in Summer League, and he's not going to get the identical same looks like in a second year. Like, that's NBA defense is like 20 times better than Summer League defense. But I think that he's going to have a good year 2.
I mean, you know, he was a top 3 pick last year. A lot of people thought maybe he was going to go number 1. He should have really dominated Summer League. So I was glad to see. It was
kind of like how Keegan did it. We were watching and we're like, Keegan's way too good.
Yeah,
like,
he's
Keegan
too
is
good for
way too good to be in Summer League right now. That's how it felt with Jabari once it was all over. He hit the buzzer beater too. Then it was,
we were in Sacramento. We were in Sac Town, so being Warriors fans was not a good place to be in that building. And for Summer League, like, the Warriors run out of the tunnel, or they're in their little layup line, and they get booed out of the building. And then every time Keegan touched the ball, like, you just feel the Sac fans were just so excited and so happy. And he's such a good player. Gosh, like, he's good. You know, we talk about athleticism, like, he's not even terribly athletic, but his body is just built for the NBA. It's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely put like a ceiling on him that I think he hasn't broken that ceiling yet, but like how he played in the Summer League, just like he was like a shot creator. He was getting his own bucket every single time. Like, I wasn't expecting him to be that. And in the NBA, we'll see if he's that. But if he is that, like, yeah, he's broken through whatever ceiling I put on him.
Yeah, it was great. It was really cool to see, because he was the best player
by far
that we saw. I think
even just looking at everybody I watched in Summer League, him and Jabari were probably just like the best players.
All right, your third here. You mentioned the brother, but what about Ausar?
So Ausar, I wanted to mention one of the Thompson twins, but I didn't want all 3 of my picks to be from the same game I watched. So I went with Ausar. I questioned the Detroit pick when they grabbed him, because they already had Cade and Jaden Ivey, and I was interested in where he'd slot in. He slots into the 3 at the moment, but I think my issue with this Detroit team is that, you know, Cade hasn't really shot the best in his career. I think Detroit still believes that he's going to develop this awesome 3-point shot. Jaden Ivey is not known to shoot the 3 ball. Ausar Thompson is not known to shoot the 3 ball. Whoever their 4 is, whether it's Bojan Bogdanovic, awesome 3-point shooter, or they go Isaiah Stewart, not great 3-point shooter. And then you have Jalen Duren, not great 3-point shooter. So they watched the evolution of today's basketball, and they saw Stephen Curry, and they saw all the people who came after them, and they said, we want to do that, but the opposite. We don't want to shoot the 3 ball. And so that's why I kind of questioned the Ausar pick. But I was talking to NBA University, and he reminded me, he's like, you know, you can't draft based on fit if you don't know if you don't know the guys you already have and what they're going to be. Like, I kind of slotted Jaden Ivey in as like the guard of the future for Detroit, but like, what if he's not? You know, I can't sit here and say that Jaden Ivey is going to be an all NBA player.
They may have to end up trading one of those 3 guys.
I think it's going to be Jaden. So after watching some Ausar play basketball, Asar Thompson is an insane defender. Like he is so athletic like his brother, but he like moves better on defense, and he just like locked up Grady Dick on a play, kicks it to Marcus Sasser, the point guard, who jumps in the air and lobs it in the air back to Asar, who then it's just so much. It's just such an athletic feat of athleticism to watch from him. But yeah, awesome point of attack defender, awesome athlete, someone who's going to dunk the ball really well, and an awesome passer. I used one of his clips in my video that I posted to Twitter about my summer league experience, and it was just a lot of like, what you learn as a kid is like, don't do jump passes. But like when you have that athleticism and you could just float in the air and just like make an easy pass, like that's what the Thompson twins are going to do. They're going to do a lot of jump passes, and I can't say it's bad. Like it's going to be good. So I'm high on Asar.
Oh, did you get to meet up with NBA University?
He didn't go through. He didn't come through. He had something that came up. But I think he's going to go next year. I got to meet up with some people that I've done podcasts with though. With that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I met Barlow, Raphael.
Oh, you did?
I did. He was cool.
No, that's good. Yeah, he was probably in heaven.
Yeah, no, this is everything stuff,
that
man.
He does is right all here for.
And
him.
Then I saw some of the Ringer guys. I saw Big Waz. I saw. Oh, I met Sam from Light Years. I told him.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah. I was going back to hang out with Ben. So essentially, I was with Ben, and Ben was like, "Yeah, Sam's coming through." And I was like, "Oh, I've never met the guy. I would love to meet him. I'm gonna wait here for Sam." Sam never showed up. I did my MBA interview, and I was like, "Ben, I'm gonna dip. Great to see you, man." So I dipped, and then after the game, I was like, "I'm gonna come back and just see if anything's going on." And as I'm walking through, I see Sam. I was like, "Hey, Sam, is it cool if I introduce myself? I'm Garrett Gonzales' son." Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, "I'm gonna go see Ben." And he's like, "Oh, dude, I've been meaning to go see him. Like, let's go." And so we went. And then that's how I met Sam. So Sam was cool. I also met MT for like 5 seconds. Ben was like, "Have you met MT?" And I was like, "I haven't." And he was like, "All right, let me go introduce you to him." And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I did the whole like too scared, like that guy's a famous person. And I was just like, "Hey MT, I'm a big fan of Warriors Plus Minus." And he's like, "Oh, so you're a Kawakami guy." And then he just like walked away, and I was like, "All right, cool and great to meet you." But he was going to interview Chris Paul, so it was just probably not a great time.
Yeah, totally.
I forgot about that. Yeah, no, I met some cool people.
No, it was awesome. All right, well, one more before we talk a little bit of Warriors, because this is really my favorite G League player, Guy Santos. We saw the very first Guy Santos game last year, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, like this guy is so talented." Now, the rest of his summer league experience was a lot of turnovers and a lot of falling down. And I mean, he had a good year at Santa Cruz, but it's not like he shocked the world while playing for Santa Cruz, which reminds me, if he's in Santa Cruz again, we should probably go to a game or two.
Yeah.
But his game is definitely growing. He's not as out of control. He looks like he's handling the basketball a lot better. His shot, his outside shot, his 3-pointer looks a lot better. I think he was bragging about the fact that he was now 220 pounds. He got the hair going. What did you think about Guy? And we'll relate this to a later segment, because at the very end of this podcast, I do want to do a quick look at the current Warriors roster.
It was an interesting Guy. It was a new Guy. Like the first game we watched, where he was essentially discovered the 27 points or 30 points, whatever he had in that
attacking everybody.
It was on ball Guy. It was I'm doing everything Guy. And it seems like in the G League, they transitioned his role into being more what the Warriors would need, which I thought was interesting. So when we go watch this Guy, it was Brandon Pajemski setting him up for, it was off-ball Guy. First Guy we saw was on-ball Guy. This was off-ball Guy. And I thought that was cool that, he pretty seamlessly transitioned into either role. Obviously, on-ball, he's probably struggling a lot. You saw the turnovers, but man, that's what when we first watched it. We said, what, Brazilian Luka? That's what we called him? Yeah. Brazilian Luka, an on-ball guy, an on-ball big guy, on-ball big point guard who just used the mass of his body to get into the lane and hit shots. And off-ball Guy was fun, though. A guy who still has the passing instinct and passing ability, which is nice, but it was also just spotting up for three and making timely cuts. So I would bet, like, my bet is that if they do not, what are the Warriors sitting at right now? 13 roster spots?
They have 13.
So if they don't use that 14th spot and that's still vacant, they don't go after Rudy Gay or whoever the heck, they might else be looking at. I think they'll give that to Lester and then make Guy a two-way. would be my bet, but they could also just do Lester and Gee as the two ways. But
they are they going to add that 15th spot though? They didn't last year all the way.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
So, okay, we'll talk about that at the end of this show. But I did want to mention Gee because I did like seeing him play two almost like two entirely different players from the 2 years that we got to see.
We run the Gee fan club.
I am very much into anything Gee Santos. I just think he's such a raw athlete, and you want to see. It's kind of like your favorite baseball team drafts a player. And you get to see that person in the minors for like 3 years, and they finally come up. That's kind of how I see Gee. All right, we're going to switch gears because the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole soap opera has grown a little bit from the Jordan Poole side. We heard from his pops on Twitter and one of his buddies on Instagram, and they are presenting the situation as if Draymond was like, big bro, and something happened, which they will not, they themselves are not saying. And then Draymond turned on Jordan, and that's kind of their story. And Draymond's story is that Jordan said something that changed the relationship and caused him to get physical with him. And then I don't know if you heard also today, Monty Poole, it was on 95.7 The Game. I didn't hear the clip. I only saw the little graphic
the excerpt
about Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond not being close. And so, I don't know if I don't know if the Jordan Poole side is the source of the Jonathan Kuminga.
Wait, did you listen? So when we went to the California Classic and came back, we were listening to the Paul George pod with Draymond. Did you continue to finish that podcast?
I didn't.
Okay, so I did. And Draymond talked about, he wishes he was more of a vet to JK.
Interesting,
huh? So I believe there's legitimacy in Monty Poole's report because I also like Monty. I think
you wonder, like, now here's where in the NBA, when you have shorter contracts and it is really kind of a players' league, you would think that, Draymond gets to 30, 31, 32. He then sort of looks at himself as a mentor. But at the same time, if you look at yourself as a mentor, you are mentoring people who may take your job as you get older, and then you kind of get pushed aside. So it's kind of a slippery slope with mentorship in the NBA with these short contracts. And I did wonder that because you would think you'd go, okay, Jonathan Kuminga is very athletic, but he could be a great like 4 next to Draymond as a 5. Like maybe Draymond wants to get the chemistry together with JK and help him get there so that, he can sort of see things in JK. He could envision JK becoming somebody who he could play with. But at the same time, it's like, how much do you invest in that unless you're Steph? And even if you are Steph, it doesn't sound like Steph is this giant mentor to these young players. Like, seems like he's a friendly guy and he likes them, but it's not.
It doesn't seem like it's his thing.
Yeah, you don't hear stories about, Steph's taking this guy under his wing or anything.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder, is that really Draymond's role? Is it his role to be a vet to these younger players? Like, was it Draymond's job to go, okay, I'm going to make sure that Wiseman, gets all the chances in the world to succeed? Is it his job to do the same with Kuminga? Is that Looney? Like that's the piece of this that we don't understand because of how the league works. But it does sound like, now Draymond supposedly had this relationship with Jordan, then it went to hell. Now Draymond's got this issue with Jonathan Kuminga, supposedly. I don't even know, I don't even know what to think outside of, maybe mentorship is kind of not the thing in the league because of that.
Yeah, I think just like the rule of thumb that I've heard is like it's kind of like you had mentors, you had vets, so that's kind of your responsibility to pay it forward and do it once you're capable of being a vet. And Draymond talks about his vets when he came in the league. When him and HB came, it was like RJ.
And he took all their jobs. They were not on the team for very long.
But didn't Draymond have a thing where like he was given a vet and he's like, no, I don't want that guy. I want this guy.
I
thought
think
that was a
I
story.
think there was one player who maybe he already thought he was better than or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
something like that. But no, but I guess the point is that Draymond always talks about his vets. Like I hear it like once or twice a year about him talking about his vets, and I don't know, just do it for the other guy. It's not his job, but you talk about
you talked about that podcast, right? Who did he
yeah.
mention as a fantastic human being? David Lee. Whose job did Draymond take? David Lee. So it's like it's crazy, right?
I guess yeah, it's difficult, but someone needs to be a vet to those guys, and I bet you remember, but I feel like when JK and Moody first got here, they were asked, who's been like the person you've gotten closest to, or who's been your vet. D. Lee said Moses Moody said Damian Lee, and we were like, oh god, like not the guy we want you to get like tight with. I forgot who JK said, but yeah, it wasn't any of the big three. But one of the big three needs to do it, and
we kind of thought that was going to be Andre last year, right? Because Andre was doing a lot of coaching on the sidelines.
Him and JK are close. Him and Wiggins are close. Him and Poole were close. So Iguodala did his job. Iguodala is all about like player brand, player.
Yeah.
Power to the players. So yeah, he definitely was a vet to this. It's just weird. Yeah, none of the big three are. And you look at Steph, like it's like, okay, if you don't want to be, like, damn it. But at the same time, it's like you've done so much. So one of either Clay or Dray has to do it. And then you look at Clay and you're like, ooh, you don't really express emotion. So you're not going to do it. And yeah, Clay will take Wiseman on a boat ride once every year. But yeah, I guess it kind of did unfairly fall on Draymond. And I guess not like 100% like his fault, but damn, he sucks at it.
Yeah.
Like he's made things worse.
Yeah.
He hasn't made things better. That's the thing. At least just be like Steph and Clay and just keep it wash. Like don't be good, don't be bad. But Draymond's just like been bad.
And yeah, he's probably pretty demanding, right? Because if you look at it from his perspective, Draymond himself is not the most talented player in the league. Draymond works hard, and Draymond takes advantage from a psyche perspective of, the whole poor Grant Williams in that Boston series. Draymond was just decided that Grant Williams and Jaylen Brown were the ones he was just gonna be mean to. So I would imagine he expects a lot out of teammates probably, and the ones that he looks up to, like Steph, and to some extent, I don't know if he looks up to Clay, but he knows that Clay is going to help him win. I'm sure Iguodala as well. But those who he probably deems are not helping or are weaker or whatever, yeah, probably not defend. And, you don't get the great part of Draymond that it seems like a lot of these guys do love about him.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the current roster. I'm going to name all of the folks who we know and we believe are going to have the roster spots. I counted 13. Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, GP2, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Brandon Pajemski, TJD, Dario Saric, and Corey Joseph makes 13.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves one spot. And then if they keep that 15th spot open, only one spot, right? Because, the way that Leicester, who I thought had a pretty darn good summer league, the way that Leicester would make the team, you would have to add a 15th player as a
I think
two-way.
they could two-way him, no?
And then
two ways
it wouldn't count.
Yeah, two ways don't count as roster spots.
Okay, so but they couldn't.
And I think you get three two-way. You get 3 2-ways now. I think that's an updated thing in the CBA.
But can you add all 3 to your bench, giving you like 17 players?
Yeah, I believe you can.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
And I believe another change as well, don't quote me on this, but I believe, how when two-way guys would suit up, it would count against a game.
Yeah.
Oh man, this doesn't sound right now that I think about it and say it out loud, but I believe that you can suit up, and as long as they don't play, it doesn't go against their game counter.
Interesting. That makes sense. That would make sense because you see street clothes Ty Jerome a lot last year in his baggy sweatshirts and stuff.
And he probably deserved to be activated more.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. So do you think you had a couple of guys on your mind as far as who could be the 14th guy, and one of them did get waived. He got released. Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay's been in the NBA for a very, very long time. I think he would be the tallest player on the team, I think, if they did pick him up. I think he's
Rudy's
like a
what?
legit
He's like
6'10".
Rudy's not 6'10", is he? I think he's like 6'8".
Let's see. How tall is Rudy? Oh, yeah, he is. He's 6'8", 250.
Okay. Big guy.
Yeah, he's a big dude. And last year, he did not shoot well from three. He only shot 25%.
He's like not even good anymore.
But he did shoot 86% from the free throw line.
Oh,
and historically, from 3-point land, he is a 35% 3-point shooter. And you can go back as far as 2 years ago. He shot 38% for the Spurs from three on 4.5 attempts. You go back to 2018, 2019, he shot 40, but with less attempts playing for the Spurs. So, not a not a sharpshooter in any way. Never really took a ton of threes either. The most threes he's ever taken in a game per game is that almost 4.5. So, he's not gonna be Otto, but he does have the length and the size
to defensively
of
be Otto,
where defensively you may be able to play him against Draymond. But yeah, his rookie year was 2006, 2007. So you're talking about a dude who, he is 17 years of experience in the NBA right now.
Yeah. I mean, what's the theme that Steph and Draymond keep pounding into this offseason? Steph keeps saying maturity and Draymond keeps saying adults. So that's who's going to be added to the 13th spot, or the 14th spot is going to be a mature adult. But Rudy fits that, and Rudy also fits, a guy they've been going after for the past few years. They've been, not past few, but for a while, apparently they've always wanted Rudy Gay. So that might hold a little more weight. I don't know. I did the song and dance with Jermichael Green saying, look, if you look historically, he's been a great 3-point shooter, but if you look at just last year, he was bad. So maybe let's just not look at last year.
Well, Rudy's best years were right up to
Memphis. He was Memphis, right?
Yeah.
His best years?
His best years were right as the Warriors were getting good.
Yeah.
He was a 20 point scorer.
Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah.
5 rebounds or no.
7 I just remember him. Like I remember Rudy Gay playing like the old 2Ks and just being able to like dunk on everyone. Him and like Jared Bayless, I was for some reason just always able to dunk on everyone. So that's kind of how I was introduced to Rudy Gay. But yeah, no, I think he fits what they're looking for in a lot of ways. Maybe just except for like shooting and the need for a rim protector and the need for someone who's going to get to the hole and get to the line. Like really their main necessities, except for he's a mature adult. So we will see. I don't think he's the answer, but I wouldn't be surprised if they signed him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look and see if there's any sort of defensive stats that I can find for him that
I bet he's solid.
Give us any information.
Savvy.
Yeah, he's probably he's probably not the athleticism that he once had, so that would be a thing. And you always worry with these older guys about injuries and such. And then, for every Otto Porter who's going to help you win an NBA Finals, there are 1 or 2 Jermichael Greens who just don't play very well at all and never really get into the groove. And it just makes you think that it probably is kind of hard to play on this team, right? So you kind of have to. This is why they're talking about adults and older players, because it's like, yeah, you have to have kind of like a quick learning curve to do it. So
yeah, I want them to get someone in Wiggins' age range because they, especially after adding Chris Paul, they took away Jordan Poole, who was all 82, and they added Chris Paul, who's like barely gets you 60 games in the regular season. They need to add someone who's going to play in the regular season and you can count on for 75 games. That needs to be replaced because Jordan was that, and that's why we were able to sustain a 6 seed, is because this guy was able to be our lead ball handler and play 82 games. So they need to replace. I think my needs were like rim protector, guy who gets to the hole, guy who gets to the free throw line, guy who could play all 82. Like I think that was my only, and that's kind of a lot of needs. But drafting Podziemski,
I don't know if that guy's going to be available for $3 million or whatever, though.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, they drafted Podziemski and they got CP. Both CP is going to get to the line. CP is a guy who you can depend on in the playoffs too, which I guess is just a need I didn't say, but they needed. So, and I guess the pushback on CP is that he's actually not a guy you could depend on in the playoffs, but that's mainly because of injury. So if they're betting on being able to keep him healthy in the playoffs, and we'll see. Podziemski, a guy who could dribble, pass, shoot. I feel like he fits the Warriors system. So, ideally he'll be able to get to the line. He'll be able to play all 82. So that's some of the boxes, but you have to also depend that he gets in the rotation and he cracks the rotation. It's definitely like, I feel like a lot of people are just like genuinely confused about the Warriors offseason. And I feel like the easy thing to say is that it sucked because we can't envision what Chris Paul looks like with these guys. But I do believe that putting smart basketball players together, they'll figure it out. And I think Chris Paul is one of the smartest basketball players to ever touch a basketball. So every team he goes to gets better. I think we've already said this, but you look at the Thunder, who were projected, like, they always show that graphic of like the OKC Thunder are 0.035% chance to make the playoffs. And they made the playoffs when they added CP. He just makes teams better. Phoenix, who had a playoff drought, Chris Paul goes there, they make the playoffs. He's just a guy who's historically always made the team he goes to better. And I don't see why that would start now. And it makes sense for the Wizards to offload him because they knew that. They were like, we want to be bad. And here's a guy who's just going to like somehow sneak us into the playoffs.
I wonder if there's a team that has had a higher injury risk factor for their best players than the Warriors. We know Steph. Steph's going to tweak an ankle, tweak a knee.
65 max for Steph.
Yeah. And CP is going to hurt his hamstring and he'll play maybe a couple games less than that. And, Clay is coming off of a year in which his athleticism, went kind of not down the tubes, but it just lessened. Draymond played so much because we thought with that calf injury that exposed the back injury from last year, we're like, okay, well, they may have to be a little bit more precious with him, but then he's just constantly playing center all game long. So that is my worry is with the injury. Saric got hurt last year too. They just have a high risk of injury factor for some of their older players. And you lose one of them, is a Lester Quinones on a two-way going to help if Chris Paul or Steph goes down? And then all of a sudden you're playing Corey Joseph and Podziemski and Lester Quinones and Clay, and that's your backcourt. Like, the level of, wow, this roster goes from high level talent, high IQ to all of a sudden these young players are playing. It's kind of like it could go really quick. So I don't know what Rick Celebrini, he's going to be the most valuable player, most valuable person inside that organization to keep all these dudes healthy. That's a tough job.
Yep. You're right.
All right. That is it. We will be back. We won't be back longer than last time for sure. Hopefully we'll just keep going on our sort of week by week, but we'll see.
Hopefully there's news.
Yeah, if there's not news, then maybe we do push or maybe we do some other stuff. Like I want to, and for instance, we didn't have a Thompson and Clark this week because Brad's on vacation, and plus we're coming out of the All-Star break, and so we'll push that to next week. But yeah, so we'll see. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do some interview stuff with people who I may have worked with in the past and stuff. So there may be even an interview series with me and some other people coming up soon, at least if I can get the first one going. So just cross your fingers. I think people who listen to this feed would definitely enjoy the person I'm trying to get a hold of. So I don't want to jinx it, but all right. For Bry, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace.